what we have always said is Republicans have better ideas. We just do. We have better ideas for how people should prosper, whether it's through their employment or for small business. I mean, truly, we came in this year with three things on our minds, three things that reflect everything Coloradans are thinking about. Number one is, how do you make Colorado more affordable? How do you get government out of the way? Right now, the House Republicans are convening different working groups to talk about housing. How do we actually really get to attainable housing?
I think by passing a bill requiring electrification on all new buildings, which costs about $100,000 more per home, I think that will do it.
So that's a bad idea.
It's over. I can sleep better when the session is over. Minority Leader of the House, Hugh McKean, thanks for being here.
It's over.
It's over.
Hot diggity dog. I tell you, you wait. I tell people that this is like a 90-hour-a-week job for 120 days a year. But in the end, it's like a 120-hour-a-week job because people forget how to manage a calendar.
All right, let's talk. This is inside. We'll go to regular policy in just a second, but inside baseball for us junkies. Last year, maybe the year before that, a lot of bad bills were killed because of filibustering towards the end of the session. Mm-hmm. And I'm trying to remember, was it Gardner in the Senate? I forget who was the best, just incredible at just BSing for hours at the well.
We have a name for that.
Yeah. What is that name?
It's called bobbing.
Bobbing.
And Bob Gardner bobs well.
Oh, it was so beautiful to watch because the president of the Senate would go, speak to the bill, which then allowed him to spend a half hour to explain why that last comment was actually speaking towards the bill. It's
masterful.
It was Mr. Smith Goes to Washington.
Yes.
kind of great stuff.
In fact, I will interrupt you for just a second because this year, the president of the Senate said, Senator Gardner, please speak to the amendment. And the most masterful thing I have ever seen, I actually got the tape and rewound it several times. Bob Gardner said, this amendment? This amendment? Speak to this amendment? He said, you must have gotten lost. Let me go back and start again.
So the art of that is really wonderful. But it tells me that after that, all the leaders of both houses needed to do was keep the calendar rolling. That is, You have a job, which is you calendar these bills, you usher them through, you get them so that at the end of the session, your opponents can't do what they just did. And again, this year, they didn't do this, which leads me to this question. As progressives, if they can't manage their own calendar, how are they going to micromanage my own life? They're going to engineer society. They can't even engineer the calendar.
Well, I guess, I've been in the minority in the House for 6 years. How are they doing micromanaging your life? Sucking, isn't it?
It is.
I put gas in the car today at $4.09 a gallon. And get ready, because it's going to go up another 60 cents a gallon soon.
Why is it going to go up 60 cents a gallon?
Because our governor, and now we're getting into policy, maybe we'll get back to the calendar in a minute, but our governor said 2 years ago, I think it was, that he would not ask the EPA for a waiver of the air quality standards for the Denver metro area. Now, the Denver metro area is this funny thing. It's anybody that drives to Denver, apparently. So this includes El Paso County. It includes Fort Collins,
Boulder,
everything.
It's a Front Range.
Front Range. There you go. Well, and heck,
if I recall my science on this one, because we follow the science, the ozone problems in Colorado are not caused by Colorado. We take westerly winds that have forest fires, that have California pollution, all sorts of stuff. So it's not like our fumes are causing this solely.
Solely, right? We'll take some responsibility for it. We create some here. The other problem is we're at altitude. And at altitude, with the thinner density of air, it's much easier to create ground level ozone. So you have a few things you can't change. California's going to burn. We know that. We know that we're going to stay at this altitude. We know that those are going to be problems we have. But let's just say that we follow the science, and science...
All our affordability governor needs to do is sign a letter to the EPA.
That's it.
And if he doesn't, what happens?
What happens here is the EPA has moved us almost from serious to severe air quality. And when they do that, they require certain things like the Los Angeles basin. And so here we're going to have what's called recombinated gasoline. And when they do that, there's only one refinery that can produce it. That will be the gasoline that has to be sold along the Front Range. And that gasoline costs about 60 cents a gallon more than it does today.
Our Democratic governors before this always got us that exception. Always. And this governor who says he is working for our affordability hasn't done it. Will he do it?
Has said he will not do it. In fact, 2 years ago, he said, I'm not going to do that. We should follow the lead of California and the way that they approach their air quality problems, and so we're going to do the same thing. Let's remember that Los Angeles is at sea level, and Los Angeles does not have the Pacific Ocean burning to the west of it. So Los Angeles, by all rights and measures, takes responsibility, or should, for what it creates. Here, as you said, we have imported pollution sometimes.
So, being a loving father, I gave my daughter my old junker car because I only buy junkers. That's all I can afford. I've never spent more than $5,000 on a car, ever, and I drive them until they die. So I give her one. Catalytic converter goes out. It's in order to fix it, it's going to be 3 times as much as it was just a year or two ago.
Yes,
because our governor. And again, it's only our governor, you have no say in this as a legislator, signed on that whatever California's emission standards are, Colorado's emission standards will be identical. So if Gavin Newsom eats a bad hot dog one day and decides to change those emission standards, we are wed to that no matter what. And that comes down to one guy. And now
2 guys, because you mentioned Gavin Newsom,
that's true,
who always looks like he ate a bad hot dog.
So what it takes is I have to throw away this car, this affordable car that my now college-age daughter was using. Be fine. Now it's moved it over the level of it doesn't make sense to fix.
Right.
So we now need to buy a new used car because he's the affordability governor.
He's the affordability governor, and you, by your sheer recalcitrance, are resisting moving into the electric future that he has created for you.
I would love to. Go ahead and give me the subsidy you're giving everybody else.
That's what's amazing about this, right? Is this governor has said, we're come hell or high water, this is where we're going. You're going to have electric heat, you're going to have electric appliances, you're going to have all this, all at the same time. Out of the other side of his mouth, he's like, let's shut down the coal-fired power plants because God forbid that we produce the energy I'm trying to tell you to use.
Let's close down natural gas, which is better than coal for the environment.
There you go.
Let's not allow nuclear, which would solve the problem if you really wanted to decarbonize and have everything run.
Let's resist really using pump hydro for what it's made for.
Do you think Colorado voters get that?
No.
I mean, you and we're junkies. You're down there every day. All they see is energy prices going up. I'll tell you that I call it the Polis inflation premium, that we are considerably higher inflation rate here than the rest of the nation because of policies like this. And when the Family Leave Act gets involved and these other regulations start taking place, and when the Air Quality Control Commission starts telling us we can't drive anywhere, it's only going to get worse and worse and worse. Do you think voters this fall are going to go, yeah, this is expensive because of that?
Yes and no. And the challenge that I have is that I think that we all lead busy lives. And so to keep our eye on that ball of what exactly is going on, what led to this, that's for junkies like you and me. I tell people all the time, I take them into the Wayback Machine. Let's remember how this began. And truly, I look at my little town of Loveland. We have the Platte River Power Authority. We have the cleanest coal-burning power plant in the Northern Hemisphere. It's this beautiful thing on the way to Wyoming. As you go to Cheyenne, you can look down in the valley and see rawhide just pumping out little electrons. The problem is that when we shut those down, and this is when people did pay attention, last February 14th. When we had 20 below zero temperatures, Texas nuclear power plants had a problem with their safety valves, so they started using lots of natural gas, and we had people here getting phone calls saying, please reduce your consumption. That's what people remember, but only for a moment. And that's the challenge we have as you get into the hot summer and you forget the 20 below zero day in February. And what we also forget is that it requires everything, right? If you really want to move into this new energy future, it requires everything, because there is not one 17-year-old girl who does not want to plug her phone into the wall at 3 o'clock in the morning as she's trying to get that last Snapchat from her friends and wants to charge her phone, right? That's the problem, is we're going to give up reliability for an ideological pursuit of clean power as
by the way,
defined by them.
I don't mind the push towards clean power. I just want individuals to be able to choose.
Right.
And if you want to power your home solely on bunny flatulence, then you should be able to buy your electricity from the utility that does that. We don't have that here in Colorado. We had this grand bargain. The grand bargain was the Public Utilities Commission would say, you get to be a monopoly, Xcel Energy. You get to be the monopoly. You get guaranteed profit. Mm-hmm. No matter what you do, you sneeze, you make 10% on it. In exchange, we will keep an eye on you to make sure you're charging the least cost. That was least cost. And then Ritter came in, changed the PUC. They changed it and said, we're not concerned about least costs. We want environmental whatever. And the utilities are like, well, great. You tell us to build a power plant, and then to clean it up, we'll charge you for that. It's the second mortgage, and then we'll turn it into natural gas. That's a third mortgage we'll pass on, and then we're going to turn it to wind farms. That's the fourth mortgage we're going to put on. We're happy to do it because they can double, triple what we charge. And so it's this Baptists and bootleggers thing between Greens and the monopolies.
It's also this problem in Colorado where we do still live by a Western ethic. Right? We're kind of independent. We like to do our own thing. Fort Collins, Loveland, Estes Park, and Longmont have their own power company. That's the Platte River Power Authority I mentioned a minute ago. We do our own thing. We're not beholden to the Public Utilities Commission because we are a municipal-owned power company. Then you have the rural electric cooperatives. We're this mishmash of all these different types of governance, types of customer service, everything else. The PUC is cracking me up, and congratulations, by the way, on, I guess, a rather large win of taking them to task.
What he is talking about is we've got an initiative in the works. We hope to get on the ballot. If we don't do it this time, we'll do it next. That says when they hike our rates, their shareholders have to have some skin in the game. Because right now, all they need to do is raise rates, and shareholders pay nothing. Working families get hurt.
So I'm going to get a little wonky for a second, but I won't take long. Back, 3 years ago, we saw the Renewable Energy Standards Bill run by Chris Hansen. In fact, this was my turducken bill. At the very end of the session, we had 3 bills crammed into one. It was actually the defining moment for when bills should be read at length, because nobody knew what was in it. But what was in it were these renewable energy standards. And Xcel had pushed this, and I've mentioned this to them several times, that they wanted some standards in there so that what they could do was roll off old assets and bring on new assets, which could depreciate. And as we both know, in business, it's good to have assets that give you a tax advantage, and they have to be depreciable assets. At some point, they don't give you any advantage anymore, and you want to get rid of them. The problem is that when they created those renewable standards, what happened was little old people like Platte River Power Authority, like Poudre Valley REA, like the Intermountain Rural Electric Cooperatives, they were not in the same position. They're not investor owned. They don't need to have depreciable assets rolling off. And so they created a law in the state of Colorado that then hurt 2/3 of the municipal utilities and the cooperatives, and only served the people who had investors who needed that advantage. And so what happened was we got even more in this sort of imbalance with the people who produce power, the people who buy power, and none of them are the same, because guess what? Colorado does not look the same if you drive for an hour. And so in the end, we have, but the challenge is that the PUC, the governor's even mad at now apparently, because the PUC said, hey, Xcel, if you need to recoup your high natural gas prices from February 14th, 2021, you go right ahead. And our affordability governor, I believe you called him, threw up a flag, and he's like, whoa, hold on, that's not right. Well, who
That's not right until I'm reelected.
Until I'm reelected, and not just that. Who appointed the PUC?
You did.
He did.
No, it's the same thing with this. Here are all these new taxes, we'll call them fees, that we don't allow.
Charges, assessments.
Right. Things that we will not allow voters to vote on without their consent, which is why we love Tabor. But we're gonna put some of them on hold until after my reelection. That is so insulting in so many ways.
Well, insulting. I mean,
duplicitous,
crooked.
Right.
I mean, actually, take a look at your Tabor refund. You would have gotten your Tabor refund next year when you filed your taxes. And they would have said, hey, you owed this much in taxes, and your Tabor refund went to offset all of that. But the governor decided he wanted to move that up to, I don't know, September, like right before ballots drop. And so I ran an amendment on the House floor that said that no one who's running for re-election could have their name or their title or their presiding position on that check. And it got shot down by the same people who were infuriated by.
That's a Richard Daley approach. Yeah. When you go to Chicago, every trash can, City of Chicago, Richard Daley, mayor. Yeah.
What's wrong with that?
There's nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with that. Though I was told at one point that the state treasurer, Dave Young, who is running for re-election, has to have his name on there. But it will be interesting if Governor Polis puts his name on all those checks so that people get it kind of as a little
stimulus check,
monetary advertising circular.
By the way, I don't mind getting our refunds a little early. Good. With inflation, $1 now is better than $1 a year from now. That's terrific. What I wanted to say is this check only appears because of the Taxpayer Bill of Rights. And even though we've worked around it, we have so much damn money in the system, we couldn't steal it all. So we're giving you this.
We couldn't steal it all. So I'm usually wearing a sticker that says, on April 25th, 2022, Republicans and Democrats agreed that Tabor is great.
Yeah.
It's amazing when people come your way and go, wow, we love this thing.
What was the biggest surprise of the session for you? What passed that was it's like if you could have stopped one bill, which one?
Well, I'm actually going to go a little differently. We stopped bills. We stopped bills before they were even introduced because there were so many air quality bills, right? Yeah. It was this and it was that. And we literally looked at some of those that we knew were in the hopper and went and said, this place shuts down if you introduce that bill. And I think when you were talking about our ability to filibuster and our ability to sort of drag things out, part of that goal is just like kids with their parents, right? They keep asking for, well, your daughter, obviously, the car. Dad, I'd like the keys. I'd like anything. And what we do is we
Stockholm syndrome. Fine. If you shut up, I'll buy you the pony.
Well, Stockholm syndrome, you fall in love with the pony, but
I've fallen in love with my captor. So don't worry.
Yes. So no, the big thing on this was we killed a bunch of bills that never were introduced because they were so egregious. But if you're going to ask the biggest bill of the year that was a surprise, it was fentanyl. Why on earth would there be opposition to re-felonizing a drug that in the most minuscule form can kill you? Right? And I'm not a big government, let's just, trounce on everybody, but there are certain things that are so incredibly dangerous that what you want to do is either get rid of them or learn to live with them, right? That's the dichotomy. And in so many ways this year, we saw that the Democrats wanted to learn to live with this. How can we go through it?
The bill signing for the fentanyl bill this year. People whose loved ones died of fentanyl holding their pictures behind Polis as he signs this bill to save lives. And he says he's saving lives, and that's why we need to do this to stop this terrible epidemic. In the same way that I would say this check is made possible by Tabor, which we're trying to kill, it sure would have been nice if the governor said, man, we screwed up. We screwed up. We decriminalized 4 grams, which is enough to kill thousands of people.
Bunch of people.
And we did it with the best intentions. We thought it would do this. It did that. And so this is a step towards fixing our mistake. That would be great. That would be great if he said that.
The district attorneys brought to Representative Mike Lynch from up in my neighborhood a bill last fall. And he put the bill idea in. It sort of sat in the hopper until spring, basically. and the speaker and Lynch started working on what this bill really ought to look like. I've been waiting since last fall to hear those words, to hear we screwed up. We made a mistake. We listened to the loudest voices on the fringe left that said we ought to defelonize all of this stuff because, why would we do this? I never heard the words. Still haven't heard the words. And now I hear, okay, we're gonna take this to sort of new levels for fentanyl. Fentanyl's in everything now. It's in everything. And so what they wanted to put in there was this business of, well, you have a presumable assumption you just didn't know.
Right.
And the poor prosecutors who brought this bill last fall are the ones sort of left holding the bag now, saying, well, like anybody can just say, I didn't know.
I didn't know.
I had no idea.
I had no idea. The economics, if Republicans are going to have a big year, and I think they are going to have a big year, it's the economic issues. It's crime, it's economics. On the economics, it's hard to get Polis to admit his policies, and probably even more so his people, are causing prices to skyrocket here. That we've destroyed the energy industry. We're working against the livestock industry. We've got our meat out days. We're doing everything to choke industry. We're going after small businesses. We're letting minimum wage increase. We're doing all these things that are hurting us. I still have this concern that while people are hurting, the governor is still very popular. He still's got tons of money. And that he'll be a tough guy to beat. Talk to me about the House. It would sure be nice if the House and or Senate flipped.
We'd like either one or both, and we'd prefer both. And here's why. What I see, because I'm talking to candidates all the time, I'm trying to figure out kind of what things look like. We have primaries to get through, and then we'll really know what the races look like. But we are running more Republican candidates for positions this year than ever before, which is a good thing, right? There's 65 seats in the House. I think we have, at the last count, was 57 or 59 candidates in these races, which some are there because they want to run and they're in a district where it's going to be really tough. I get that. But what we're really...
Sacrificial lambs.
We don't call them sacrificial lambs. We
placeholders.
We call them people
lightning strikes,
who want to serve and have decided this is the way they want to serve. But what we're really looking at is we need 33 to take a majority in the House, and we think we're going to be right
we
there.
Are now
24.
That's a lot.
It's a lot, but as you said, I think that this year, what we have always said is Republicans have better ideas. We just do. We have better ideas for how people should prosper, whether it's through their employment or for small business. I mean, truly, we came in this year with three things on our minds, three things that reflect everything Coloradans are thinking about. Number one is, how do you make Colorado more affordable? How do you get government out of the way? Right now, the House Republicans are convening different working groups to talk about housing. How do we actually really get to attainable housing?
I think by passing a bill requiring electrification on all new buildings, which costs about $100,000 more per home, I think that will do it.
So that's a bad idea, and I think that's the other good thing about Republicans is sometimes we tell people that's a bad idea.
I think having local governments unionize, let's just start off with counties first. We'll have them be able to unionize with a simple 50+1 vote,
right?
Because that always makes government more effective, more efficient, and more accountable. So let's do that.
Also a bad idea.
Both of these things happen this year.
Yes, both those things happen this year. No, what really we're looking at is make Colorado more affordable. How do you get government out of the way? How do you get the fee setters and the fee takers together and say, how are we going to make it possible for Colorado families to buy a house? Because right now they can't. The average, you live in Boulder, which absolutely boggles my mind every time I think about it.
They love me.
They probably do. But $1.16 million is the average home price in Boulder right now. So if you would like to will your home to me, I would be happy to sell it upon your demise.
Far below that median price.
So the problem is, how do we make it more affordable? How do we actually take action on crime? You know, I got a note from one of our state troopers the other day, and it was funny that he sent me a note because he was saying, thank you for always supporting us. I tried to get a 3% raise for our Colorado State Troopers this year in the budget, got it in the House, got the amendment in the Senate, and the JBC stripped it out. So they want to put money toward electrification so badly, they don't want to pay our state troopers what we've agreed to pay them. The third thing is, how do we make sure that parents have the educational choices for their kids right in front of them, that they are the center of those decisions? That's what people are worried about. Those things will propel us in this fall's election.
Especially after parents, myself included, really saw what was going on in classrooms during COVID shutdowns.
Well, because the classroom was your dining room.
Exactly.
Yes.
What's so fascinating to me, and maybe we got to leave it at this, is that Biden is the driving force for what could be a red wave this year. And I'm not convinced that Jared Polis gets caught up in that wave, even though he is exactly like Joe Biden. He will not stand up to the crazy ass left of his party. He will sign on to these things and say that they're good. Unlike Joe Biden, he knows better. He's smart enough to know better that closing down industries, raising taxes, raising regulations, outlawing plastic bags is not good for this economy. But I worry that the electorate isn't going to connect it. They will with Joe Biden because it's on the news. The media here in Colorado has not connected Polis, the progressives, and the pain that's going on in Colorado.
The 3 Ps, so the P3 partnership, Polis, progressives, and pain. I think much to that point, you have Polis, who's not really running for re-election as governor. He's running to be the first gay president of the United States. Okay, but then say that. If what you want to do is create a template that you would take to a national level, why is it that you're putting oil and gas out of business? Why is it that even beautifully clean coal-fired power plants are being taken offline just from an emotional dislike of coal? Why is it that you are not ever going to build our roads to capacity and instead force public transportation and electrification? Why is it that the bureaucracy grows and grows and grows? If you are truly a libertarian about so many of these things, why do you force government into our lives?
I'll give you proof. The man is libertarian. While he's raising taxes left and right without our consent, we now can pay for them in Bitcoin. There you have it. He's a libertarian. Hugh, thanks as always.
Thank you, sir.
If you enjoyed that conversation, by all means, click one of these other great programs. We have the best conversations with the most fascinating Coloradans. And subscribe to our channel. Just click down below and hit that little bell button too. You don't want to miss a single show.